Greetings, travelers. I'm Josh.
And I'm Kahi,
And we're the
the
Genshin
Genshin
Guys.
guys.
Welcome. All this podcast is for fans of Genshin Impact, the mobile game made by Hoyoverse, formerly known as MiHoYo. Here we talk about our opinions, experiences, and dreams about Genshin Impact. If you like our show, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to the podcast. Kahi, how you doing today?
Day off, yes, I love it. After working so many days prior, it's great to have time to relax. I had a great nap. I had a lot of time to think about our topics for today. A lot of good stuff. I'm definitely going to be catching up on all the Genshin quest lines. I finally finished a lot of important things, but I'm still kind of prepping for the new patch that comes out this coming week. And what about you, Josh? Anything going on in your realm up there?
Well, in Tokyo, there's like typhoon warnings and landslide warnings and rain warnings and just so many things going on with the weather right now. That I'm just happy to stay inside when I can. But yeah, other than that, I went to Akihabara actually the other day and yeah, yesterday, and there was just like so much new Genshin stuff. They have the Sumeru people on like posters on the walls, and it's really cool to just hang out there and see a lot of Genshin merch and uh, other fans of Genshin taking pictures and all this stuff. I think it's pretty easy to make friends there that play Genshin. But yeah, it's been fun. So let's get started then with our show for today. Our three topics today are always our week in Genshin, and our main topic is talking about our expectations for Genshin's new anime that was recently announced. The anime that's going to be done partnering with the Japanese animation studio Ufotable. And we're going to talk a little bit about how video game anime adaptations have been in the past, our experiences with them, and what we hope to see from Genshin's new anime. So our third topic is going to be the community discussion question. As always, thank you as always again for everybody who answered the question, and we'll be talking about it a little bit later. Okay, firstly, let's talk about our weeks in Genshin. So, Kahi, what did you do this week in Genshin Impact?
So I finally finished the Tikinari. I'm just gonna call him Foxboy. I finished Foxboy's story, and yeah, you're right. It was actually kind of sad, but it did bring up a lot of interesting lore bits. I learned a little bit about the academia and how they kind of structure their rules, and kind of I get into like their mindset because they actually banned creating. Oh, I took a screenshot because I thought this was actually really important. They wanted to completely ban the existence of all mechanical life forms, which probably explains why they might have some kind of apprehension or maybe some kind of prejudice against Catherine, because as we know, she is an android. Somehow that somehow got a station in Sumeru. So the academia basically do not like mechanical life forms. It also does make a lot of sense. We don't see many contraptions other than cooking machines or machinery there at all. It's mostly like natural or biological stuff. It just seems like underdeveloped but still modern. But yeah, that's just one thing I caught. The academia banned all mechanical life for years, and the only times ruin guards do come up is way deep into the forest. So that caution might be because of the I guess their ancestors' interactions with that giant ruin guard that's still in the mountain. But I don't want to speculate too much, but it would make sense. They just don't like mechanical beings. So yeah, I learned some pretty cool stuff from the story mission. I also, the more I hear Foxboy's voice, it does sound very feminine. I know I'm listening to other Japanese voices. Are you listening to Japanese voices? Do you switch back and forth every now and then, or
I
has
switched
it been
actually
purely Japanese?
specifically for Tainari. I switched to Chinese voice because his Chinese voice is super nice. But but his
I should do that.
yeah, but I switch between all three of them all the time. So sometimes Korean, but mostly the Chinese, Japanese, and English.
Yeah, well, it was still kind of nice to get a nice unique story that focuses on Foxboy and then you go into like this whole backstory of this other character, which, oh my goodness, I never thought I'd feel so sad for a robot, but I do like how it ended. I don't want to spoil that much because I do feel that people should experience that. It's Genshin. Everything has good ending. You'll be fine, but it is kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely sad. And it does. You're right. It does reveal a lot about the academia and how they treat things. And the point about Catherine is really, really interesting. I didn't even make that connection at all. But yeah, great.
Oh, I did also meet
Mm.
another character
Who's that?
from the other story quests. Did you meet Lunja or Lunja? Lunja?
Jeez, if I did, I
It was
don't
like
remember the
her.
name.
Okay, it was her, and she had like two bodyguards. You
uh
were trying to find a mushroom. Do you remember her?
yeah, yes. I remember.
The one that says
She
that you're her friend. Hello, friend.
yes, like
Do
she's
you
you
know?
have like a really weird
Yeah.
interaction with her, right? Yeah, okay, I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I took only one screenshot of this. I mean, I like her character. It's because she's purely business, but she definitely has ulterior motives, but tries to justify it all. I mean, she feels like a good anti-hero, but not villain. I like those characters. But I took a screenshot because I didn't want to forget the name. I don't know if I've heard it before, but let me know if you heard it before. The name is Agha Farok.
I mean, okay, so she says I'm looking at the script from the quest and it says, "Hi, call me Linja of the Faroktazan, even though technically I'm a Farokdoct." And then um like Faroktazan is like their race, I guess, and Farokdoct is something that they don't really specify.
Or like a
And
sect or
yeah, but then
something. Mm.
Agha Farok will never forget your offense. So maybe that is just like a name that they give their leader. Like maybe it's not like a specific thing, or maybe it's a title within their organization. That's what it looks like. But yeah, it's a very
I don't know
mysterious
if she's
character.
referring to like herself, but what I like, it's a small little element about storytelling. It lets people know, hey, expect to see me sometime. Don't you ever forget me. But instead of saying, don't you forget me, it's more of a warning, because we'll never forget your offense. You will get it. It keeps you on your toes because it keeps you like thinking about that whenever you see anything else happen in the story. Because it's also going to be very rewarding when you're like, wait, I know this name. Oh wait, she knows Lunja. Oh wait, they're the two guys. Oh, it's them. I love that kind of like build up because they give you the hint and you remember that and you're like, yay, I remembered.
But this quest was part of the which quest line was this?
A bunch. It was a bunch. It
I think
started
it's the R&R
when
the
you
R&R
ran into
quest.
them. Yeah, I mean they're
Yeah.
involved in almost everything, but it was one specifically where you had to find a mushroom,
Mm-hmm.
and then these people were also after that same mushroom.
Right, the Zora
Everything
mushroom.
else was like you had to get a fruit, and then you had to play a instrument. Yeah,
Right.
I don't even remember the mushroom, but yeah, I was just doing that, and
Yeah, I'm looking at the script right now.
I remember finding them, and I see the blue mark, but I knew I don't have time for another world quest.
Yeah.
I don't have time for more quests, so I actually avoided them. And then today, day off, I finally went back and say, okay, let me continue that quest. And so then I started the whole thing with them. But I'm sure it's like in the middle of another longer R&R request. But
Mm. Yeah,
the
yeah.
R&R requests are just way too long. I'm still not done.
All right, we could probably make a whole podcast episode about just the R&R quest. So maybe we shouldn't talk about that too much.
Oh
But
my gosh,
yeah, and so you did story and anything else do you do in Genshin?
that took up that took up my whole day. Just going through all those little side quests, like the story mission side quests. And of course, I'm doing my artifact farm, preparing for Candace, and I revamped my Beto and Rosaria because I know I'm gonna be using Candace to give them Hydro Infusion, so I don't really need like a lot of energy recharge for my other characters because I'm gonna just focus energy recharge on Candace to give them more attack. So I gave Wolf's Gravestone to Beto, and I gave that's the prototype spear to my Rosaria because I definitely am preparing her team because I told you I'm gonna save all my stuff for phase two. I'm actually gonna skip Sino entirely because in phase two I'm gonna wish for Nilu and Candace, and whichever one I get, no matter what, I'm gonna roll until I get Candace. Even if I get Nilu, I'll just keep going until I get at least one Candace because I know that's going into my team. I will build Nilu later because she definitely needs more focus for a team because like she has her own hydro moves and she can't really be infused with another one. I mean, she's kind of like Zhao in a way, but I don't want to build a team around just Nilu. I want Candace to help out an existing team. So that I was just doing my artifact farming and the story quests. What about you? I noticed. Did you do anything with your Beto? You gonna be using Beto soon?
Yeah, so like I was mentioning earlier, I was on stream and I was like playing, and I just decided I should level Beto to 90 because Beto is awesome, and also, like I was curious about
Congrats.
using Beto and Candace on the same team to just like counter everything. So, um, that would be really
Yep.
interesting to like counter, and then when that one's on cooldown, you switch to Candace and counter, and then you just like keep doing that. And so,
Did you build Yunjin or no?
I do have Yunjin built up to level
Yunjin.
80, but
Yeah.
I really wanted to. I was trying to get her to Constellation 6 so I can get the speed boost, like attack speed boost that she gives. But I mean, I have her at, like
I
Constellation
think I
3 or
only have two of
4.
hers.
Yeah, so she's great though. She's really good, and like I used her for my Yoimiya. But yeah, I was thinking about messing with the like Beidou and Candace on a team, and then like just like trying different things with that. So that's why I leveled up Beidou all the way to 90, and I just leveled up Tenari to 80 today, right before this on stream. So that was really great because I had my friend help me get all the flowers and all this stuff, and I'll probably get him to 90 pretty soon. But he's very very fun to play. So yeah, that's basically what I did. Not too much story. Oh, the events. I was rushing the events today, so because they're ending soon. So I just have to finish the
Oh,
Kole
those are
one.
the first ones I did.
Yeah, so
uh,
that's what I'm working on right now. So probably after this later today, I'll probably finish up. It's still a couple days left, but it's for a Kole's event, like the one where you like take pictures. So I'm gonna do that one.
oh, I love that one.
Yeah, so that's
I
like
actually had
explore
fun with that
Sumeru.
because you had to
Yeah,
take pictures, no, like during specific times, and it's like I what I appreciate about that event is that you got it's like Pokemon Snap. You play
okay.
Pokemon Snap?
Yeah, I did on the 64. I didn't play the new one.
Okay. Oh my god, it was it brought back so many good memories. But yes, it you had to get pictures of like the sumpter bees and the crocodiles. I did not know the crocodiles weren't actually like when they open their mouths and then the bird flies to them. You
Right?
can get pretty close and they don't attack you because they're
They're just
what are they?
chilling.
What's their phrase? Yeah, they're just chilling. And then of course if you do anything else while they're not opening their mouth, then they're hostile. But I thought it was a good way to explore, and you had to actually get pictures of them attacking you, which was hilarious.
Yeah, like I find that sometimes those like the they're like cat looking like leopard things, like they're not aggressive sometimes.
Lynxes?
Yeah, but then like they are sometimes
Are they
too.
called lynxes or something else? Yeah.
I don't know, but there's a lot of them.
But they just drop meat. They don't drop anything specific.
Yeah, same with like all those creatures, right? They just drop meat. But anyway, yeah, there's so much stuff to do in Sumeru. I'm still excited. Like as long as the R&R quest line is, like I'm glad that there is something that is there to know that it's always there to do. So um I think that it would have been nice if Liyue had like and Liyue and Mansa had like a super long quest line, because like to really hold you over. But maybe it should be like we talked about before. Maybe it shouldn't be blue because most of the blue quests are small. So maybe it should have its own category, like a longer world quest. Um, but
Oh, I think
content's
though what they
content,
do good, what they do, yeah, what they do better this time around for Sumeru, the daily commissions. There's that one. Are you helping the guy rebuild his boat? And he's like the engineer by the
Oh, I
shoreline. Do
just
you
got
remember that guy?
the first one of that today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how they're doing that. Like it's a daily commission, but it actually is different, and it's you're building a little story along every single day, and you're whatever day you left off on the other day, and that's if you didn't get the same commission this day, like the next day when it comes around, you're continuing that little mini story. Because in Inazuma they did that, and last episode when we were talking about
They
that
did they
honorable
did
mention,
it in Mondstadt too, I think.
but not to the extent where it kept going. It was just part one, then part two, part one,
Oh,
part
that
two. It's
yeah, I
this
guess
one they're
so.
actually having more iterations. Even the Ellen, the one that we
Yep.
kept helping with the training dummies. She's now in actual in full armor. I thought
Well,
that's cool because it
we
shows
don't know
that
that
the
yet.
whole world.
We don't know that yet, but
I
assumably
hope.
so.
Okay,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right, right. Presumably same hair, but I hope that is. But even if it's not, the idea that they are still keeping the rest of the world evolving along with you in the background, even though you're in a completely different continent, makes it feel like the whole world is evolving. Not just, oh, this is an expansion. Everything happened over there. It's gonna be stuck there, frozen in time. They're keeping everything fresh. When they added the wolves, the new flying wolves to Mondstadt, the Wolvendom, they still remember the old zones to some degree, but I like the constant refreshing of every zone as time goes on. Even we went back to Dragonspine that one time too. I
Mm-hmm.
like that because it doesn't just feel like it's a one-off thing. But even the daily commissions feel refreshing. So that is what I like.
Yeah, well, there's, hopefully they just keep going, adding things to make the game feel fresh to people who have even been playing for a really long time, like us. But, of course, new players as well. Hope they enjoy. There is a wealth of content to be able to experience no matter where you are in the game. So, um, you know, longest my week in Genshin I think we've ever done. So, next,
Probably
yeah.
a lot
So
of stuff happening.
but yeah, so I mean, we're enjoying it. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying it too. Let us know, what you're enjoying about Genshin. Tweet at us. Comment on the podcast, join my stream, what have you. But everybody's like week to week, day to day in Genshin is always something that's so interesting because it's different for everybody, and that's like one of the beauty. That's one of the beautiful things about Genshin. So so yeah, great. Let's move on then to our news in Genshin this week. So I'm just gonna knock these out one by one, but there is, if you look at the Genshin Twitter, you'll see that they updated the Sumeru Adventure Journal with some of the characters from the new desert area. There's also a Sino introduction and short videos showcasing his abilities, as well as the 1 minute and a half ish long Sino character teaser. Doesn't show gameplay, but shows some interesting story aspect of Sino's character. Um, I think it's a really cool animation. I say go check it out. Um, it really shows Sino's serious side. And we also wanted to talk a little bit about the new weapons that were introduced. On Twitter, you will see the weapons stats. We have 3 weapons. For those of you that haven't seen it yet, we have the Polearm 5-star that's supposedly made for Sino, which is the staff of the Scarlet Sands. And then we have the 4-star Polearm Missive Wind Spear, sorry. And then we have a Claymore, 4-star Claymore called the Makaira Aquamarine. Okay. And I'm not gonna go super in detail about all of these, but let's have like Kahi. I think you want to mention something about these new weapons. So
Mm-hmm.
what's interesting about them to you?
The pole arm, because that's the 5-star. The other 5-star that they showed in the 3.1 reveal, was it's still not sure if it's a sword or a claymore, but there's only 2 5-star weapons that have this same look. But this is the pole arm, and the reason why something stood out to me is that this seems very simple, very, but also very balanced, but can easily become incredibly overpowered for certain characters because the effect is the equipping character. So not everyone, but whoever's holding this polearm, 52% of their elemental mastery gets converted to bonus attack. So if you have 100 elemental mastery, you get an extra 52 attack points. When a skill hits an opponent, you get an effect for 10 seconds, which you get 28% more elemental mastery of your elemental mastery as bonus attack, which stacks up to 3 times. Now, one thing that caught me was that the activation of it, the triggering of this, does not have a cooldown. Because, like you say, oh, this it
This
can only
effect
be
can only happen
triggered like
every
once every
0.3
3 seconds.
seconds. Yeah.
Right. So that if this is on, like, I want to say either Rosaria or Zhao, Zhao has two charges of his dash
Mm.
attack, which means
Unless
he'll
you have
instantly get two
C
snaps
one.
and last
C
10
one has
seconds.
three.
Well, one reason why Rosaria also came to mind is because her skill has two hits. Like she teleports behind, it's one hit, and then she does another slash and it's two hits. So does that mean she'll get two stacks? We don't know because it doesn't say this can only be triggered once every 1 second or 2 seconds.
Mm.
There's no cooldown for the trigger. So this could actually be really powerful in like a burst. So I definitely want to see how people use this. I know a lot of the big streamers are going to wail for this kind of stuff, so I'm curious how they're going to make this interact with that. But I just noticed this didn't have that cooldown.
Yeah, and this main stat is also crit rate percentage, and with 542 base
Mm-hmm.
attack. So it is, it's a 5-star pole arm, but like crit rate percentage always an amazing main stat to have. So yeah, I think this is gonna be one of those weapons up there with Staff of Homa that's just like, and Wolf's Gravestone even, I guess, but like it's just good with the many characters. Um Man, I feel like we get so many good pole arms. But yeah, we'll see how those go. We'll see like when those they come out and some stats and stuff get revealed. What were you saying, Kahi?
Yeah, who do you think this is going to be best for? Like, is it? You think this is like Sino specific? Because it doesn't look like Sino specific, even though we see him using it. But
I mean, like you
is it like
said,
a character this will be best on?
yeah, like you said, like I think Shao is going to be a huge,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Probably.
like he can use this to his advantage. I think that Raiden might be able to use it in a certain build, but I'm not sure. Because if it counts that like her elemental skill is like every time that her electro eye thing activates, then she can,
Oh, you're right.
yeah, then her stacks are like always max.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Oh,
like
dang, you're good
yeah.
call.
So I'm curious about how that's gonna work. Obviously, would not be super amazing on Candace as far as like elemental skill stuff because she only hits once, and then has to wait for a cooldown on her skill. But yeah, we'll see. I can't think of anybody else that this would really be super great for that has a pole arm
Oh
though.
wait, Zhongli. Zhongli, because the pillar
Um,
does a pulse.
yeah, if the pulsing counts, then yeah. But would you use this on Zhongli though? You know, you know what I mean? Like, would you use
It
a,
matches.
I mean
Yeah, I
a
love
crit
the black
crit
and
rate?
gold. It
No,
looks great.
not aesthetically.
I'm a cosmetic player. I'm an aesthetics guy.
True.
Like
Yeah.
I don't use meta teams. I use a weapon because it looks like it would go with that person.
Yeah.
Like
Fun over meta.
all my teams. Yeah, exactly. So hey, who knows? I think
Yeah.
Zhongli could use this just like Shogun, but we'll see when it
Yeah.
comes out.
Yeah. We'll see. So those are the 3 new weapons. Definitely check those out if you get the chance. One other thing I wanted to mention for those of you that have not seen it yet is that on the Hoyo Lab channel on YouTube, they have the hour and a half ish long video for Hoyo Fair 2022, which is like a fan art exhibition that they live streamed a couple days ago. And it's has a lot of fan art from like I think from many different parts of the world, but mostly the West. And there's a lot of really interesting concepts in there, like video game Genshin fan art, also like cosplay, action video fan art, music, everything. And it's really fun if you really love like seeing what the Genshin community is up to. I think it's a really interesting watch, especially if you're just a huge fan of Genshin yourself. Of course, there's gonna be some things on there. I'm gonna be honest, like they're just like really, really over the top fan stuff. Some people might think it's like a little too much, but I think that it's passion, so it is what it is. But there's a lot of really, really interesting stuff, a lot of variety in there. So I think there'll be something in there for everybody. So I definitely recommend checking that out if you have the chance. If not, you can always just watch like clips. Like there's like different clips from that video. And on the YouTube video itself, there are links to watch just different parts. So there's that Hoyo Fair 2022 video, and then there was actually a Genshin anniversary, 2-year anniversary live stream on Bilibili, which is like kind of like China's YouTube. And I think you can actually go on the website and watch it. And there's English subtitles for some of the stuff, but they have different fan uh, art exhibitions and like slightly more officialized, so slightly more official fan art stuff, I think. But I haven't watched the whole live stream yet, but there's some really really high quality fan art videos and skits and things on there. So if you're interested, definitely check that out. I think a quick Google search will get you there. Billy Genshin second year anniversary live stream. And yeah, so that's been going on because of Genshin's anniversary, of course, which is fantastic. I'm so happy that we're 2 years and we're still going strong, and we still have so many more worlds to explore and tave out, and so many things to do, and so many characters to meet. It's really crazy. And speaking of like this 2 years and coming here up until now, uh, Genshin's actually doing a Genshin Impact player stories showcase. So your story with Genshin Impact. Like I haven't looked into the details yet, but it's on their Twitter, and it's their chance to share your story of Genshin Impact, how it's affected you, how your experience with the game has been over the past 2 years, and it's like looking back on um, how far we've come as a fan, as a player, as a game, as a player base. And yeah, if you're interested, go check out details. I'm gonna go check it out later. I haven't looked at it yet exactly, but it looks really interesting and really, I guess, like inspiring and feeling just like that this game has touched so many people's lives in a positive way. I think it's really great. Um, Otherwise, back to game stuff. There is a Trial of the Scorching Sands Sino web event. So learn a little bit about Sino as a character, and also get some primo gems while doing it. So we usually have these kind of web events before a new character drops for a big patch. And this is Sinos. And then we will have they are currently doing a second anniversary grand challenge round one, which is like prove to Paimon that you are the traveler in one sentence. And it's another kind of like Genshin, like, your experience with Genshin kind of thing, but you can win Primo Gems for this as well. So don't forget about that. And it goes until October 2nd. So you do have still a little bit of time. So definitely check that out. Check out their Twitter for all the updates. Very, very important. We also share and like them sometimes, so you can follow us on Twitter as well at Genshin Guys Pod. Thank you very much. And so that's basically the news today. So man, so much stuff going on. I'm so glad that we have stuff to talk about. It's been like sort of slow recently, but with the desert, with Sumeru, with the second year anniversary, all this stuff. Super, super excited to see how the game is going to be from here on out. All right. So now that we've talked about our weeks in Genshin, let's talk about the main topic for this episode today, which is Genshin's new anime, which was announced last week at the live stream event for the new update. Genshin is getting a new anime partnering with Ufotable, the Japanese animation company, and how is it going to go? I mean, we like to think that Genshin has a a lot of resources. That Hoyoverse has a lot of resources to make this a very, very good anime adaptation. But we don't know until it comes out. So one thing that we were talking about is, what makes a anime adaptation of a video game or a movie adaptation of a video game. What makes it good? What makes it enjoyable to many people? What makes it feel like it's representing the original game? So we just want to have like a little discussion about that today, and talk about what we want to see, what our expectations are for Genshin as an anime, and we want to prepare ourselves, temper our expectations as well. We don't want to like go crazy, but Genshin is really big right now, and there's a lot of possibilities. So let's start just kind of you know figuring out what do we want to see, like Kahi, like for example, what do you want to see in this Genshin anime?
So one of the things that we were like kind of having like a micro discussion as we were prepping, like we were trying to figure out what are the key things we hope to see done very well and accurately from the anime. So I definitely wanna start off by talking about the combat because I agree with you wholeheartedly, guys. Genshin, we like the game because of how it plays, and how do we play it? Well, we fight. We have combat. We have skills. We have abilities. So there's a lot that goes into adapting combat from a video game to an anime. So you know how there are sometimes people take that too literally in translation. Like Do you remember? Did you actually watch the Halo live action TV series?
Oh, I did not actually.
Okay, because I didn't because I knew I was gonna hate it, but there were certain clips that I saw on it about it because I still had some hope, but overall I decided I don't need to watch this. There was a point where during the combat, the camera went into first person, and you could tell this was like the most janky first person like
Oh,
FPS
really?
live action recreation ever. Yeah, it looked too weird, even though that is how you would see it in the game. But the way they portray it from that perspective, even though they may have thought, oh, we're paying homage to the game, it didn't feel right in context of a live action show that's supposed to immerse you into that kind of world and story. So what I hope for combat is that they don't take things too literally, like, oh, they have a skill cooldown. Oh wait, he used his skill twice. You can't do that. Or they go the complete opposite end of the spectrum where they use a skill and it in the lore it's actually a really big skill. Like there's supposed to be a wide area, but it's like really tiny, or they just make it really really feeble. I hope they don't take it too literally. But like as far as like combat, like when you think of moments or like skills or any kind of combat choreography you want, is there like something from the game that you do want to see in the show for combat? Like you want to see a certain move or a certain fight between two characters? Like regarding combat, what do you want to see from the game?
I mean, actually, like, so during that Billy Billy live stream I mentioned earlier, there was a fan art video which I showed you about like Chunha and Xingqiu and Chongyun
Oh yeah.
fighting together,
Mm-hmm.
and
That was
in
great,
that,
by the way, for a
it's real,
fan.
yeah, really really cool animation. And you know, honestly, like that by itself gives me a little bit of hope for what the anime could look like. I mean, obviously, Ufotable, if you've ever watched any of their shows previously, like Fate or um, Demon Slayer, they have such good animation. But this like fan animation was also done really well, like choreographed really well. And what I really liked about it that I thought like, oh yeah, I would want to see this in a Genshin anime, is like the use of elemental reaction. Like that is the whole game. It's like one of the things that makes Genshin unique in itself. And I would love to see, you know, a water user and an ice user like team up and do like a team attack and freeze something, or like, you know, electro charge become a thing, or even like, you know, the new hyper bloom things like happen. Like I would love to see that animated in a way that makes sense for the context of the fight scene or whatever, but just to make it feel like Genshin, like, you know, something electric and in fire and it blows up, you know, like that would mean a lot to me as someone who plays Genshin, because that is super unique to the game. And if it's not an anime in a combat scene, it might feel kind of weird. Like I said, depends on the context, but I would love to see them work it in there somehow, right?
What I wanna, what I definitely want to see crossover is the their actual skills and burst animations, of course, used properly. But I do want to see it. Like I definitely, if they bring Beto into it, what do you think or we want to see from Beto in combat? We want to see the counter, right? We want to see how that looks, and it should definitely feel as powerful as it is in the game. I if they bring any kind of combat, I want to even if it's not like highly choreographed and very long fight sequences,
Mm.
they should definitely have those little moments, those little
Yeah, exactly.
moments in the fight where a move almost connects and you see like that camera slows down and they really emphasize just how close they were to dying. Like you remember in the Fates, you watch like a lot of the Fate shows, right? So
Like I
you know
watched like
like a
half
lot
of
of the
them.
fight sequences. Oh well, I mean, if I were to ask you like, hey, what's a good moment in the fights for a Fate series? Like, well, what's a moment in the fights that you remember?
Um, uh, what's his name? Lancer versus Archer.
Yeah, see, that's it comes to mind to so many of the Fate fans because they had multiple fights, even though they weren't super long. They had very meaningful interactions. But do you remember what any of their ultimate abilities were called?
Or the called?
Yeah, like their
No,
moves. Like, you remember what any of their moves were called? No.
it's been a long time.
Well, the thing is, they still. It has been a long time, but like when people think back on a fight from an anime or from a game, they usually can narrow it down to these little moments during the fight. They probably couldn't tell you every single step that they took throughout the fight, but they could tell you, oh, there's this one point in the fight where Saber did this, or there's this one point in the fight where Lancer did that. You know, like if they have those memorable moments, I'd say that's good. I'd say that's a
Or
win.
there's a moment in the
Although
fight
it would
where
be
he says,
great.
"I am the bone
Mhm.
of my sword," or whatever he says.
Yeah, see, yeah,
Yeah.
stuff, small stuff like that. It makes sense. It's cool and it's memorable. Like you could tell story in combat. You could have a whole bunch of like character exposition done without even a single word. But if I had to boil it down to like how to translate the combat from Genshin to the anime adaptation is just keep the feel of that combat consistent and give us some big, or maybe not big, but like give us a part of the fight that we will remember, even if everything else we don't.
Well,
Because
it,
if we're gonna keep telling other people I like that part, that's good enough.
well, remember, like, and this leads to like the next thing I want to talk about, which is like those moves, like as we play them in the game, and of course there's stories for these characters and stuff, but we connect with the characters a lot through playing as the characters, and how we when
True.
we play as the
Mm-hmm.
characters we use their abilities, right? And so that kind of ties with the character and their personality for us, right? Like how they fight is like kind of who they are in a way. And I think that um it's really important that if they choose a fight scene, like you said, like Beidou, right? Like she just has her counters, like her thing, and you know that she's like this headstrong warrior, captain of the high seas kind of person. That yeah, like we want to see her personality in a fight scene. Like we want to see her, run in head first, take a hit, and then counter it. Like like that's like her thing. Maybe as a nod to the game, like when she counters, the screen goes dark for a second, and then it just like and then she slashes, right? Like that kind of stuff. That like that is that character for us, like because we play as that character. Like I think I would love to see those moments in the gameplay, in the anime, that directly correlate to like the gameplay, to make it feel like Genshin.
Yeah. So like a personality, if let's say this had to go into the realm of live action, Do you remember them having to
Oh god, live
make?
action.
See, I look at it. Yeah, I was about to say, oh, remember when they had to make a live action? No, they didn't have to.
Nobody
But you
ever
remember
had
the
to make
live
a
action
live
Monster
action.
Hunter? No, 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 no.
Oh my god, and
But
then you're gonna
yeah,
bring
do
up
you
Monster
remember?
Hunter? That's not. That's like
Yeah,
the most
no, but
unnecessary like live action. Oh man, yes, I
did you
watched it.
play Monster
I
Hunter?
played it. I watched it. Yes.
But did you play it? Okay, so I barely played Monster Hunter World. I liked it, but I just couldn't keep up with it. But here's I was watching this review on it from a video game reviewer, but obviously because he likes Monster Hunter, he had to review the movie.
Mm.
He brought up something in the trailer, just the trailer now. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is how I remember it. There was a certain monster they were fighting in the trailer, and the main character, she was using like fire weapons,
Uh huh.
and that particular monster was resistant to fire. I'm pretty sure that's how it went.
Okay.
Like you were not supposed to use fire weapons against that monster. That makes absolutely no sense in the game.
Yeah.
Those those little things completely take you out of that world. Like that is
Well,
completely
if you're a
inconsistent with the
fan, if
character.
you're a fan of the original
Well,
source
yeah,
content, yeah, yeah.
right, yeah. But like people who don't know that, yeah, it does look cool, but it kind of kills it for the people who are fans of the game. So the you have to remain loyal to the game's lore, especially when you talk about the characters and personalities themselves, but also the things that make the world, feel alive. Because the elemental reactions. Imagine if we saw like two elements clash and they didn't do anything.
Oh yeah, that'd be
We
just very
kind of expect it
disappointing.
as Genshin players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If I
like
saw it in any other
personality wise is even
anime,
more so.
if I saw in any other anime like something on fire get electrocuted and nothing happened, I'd be totally fine with that. But if it was a Genshin anime, it better explode or it makes no sense. Like what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
What about
Yeah, like where's the
overloaded?
swirl? Where's the overload? Where's the freeze? That's water and ice. What isn't they? Why aren't they frozen?
Yeah.
But like
Well, that one, if
bringing
they're
it
not
back
doing
to
it,
like
they're just doing
personality.
something wrong. I think
Mhm.
that one's a normal
Oh,
thing
probably
in
like
real life.
oversight. Yeah, but like bringing back to like personality. There's I can guarantee you every single adaptation of a video game or even an anime into live action lost the personality. And I don't want to go into that, but keeping
Yeah,
consistency
live
with the
action's a little
personality
different, right?
can be really easy. Yeah, I mean, live action you have to translate to a human face and the body actor,
Yeah.
whereas like a voice actor could kind of be really whimsical and not have to worry about the gestures, and the animators just take over.
I mean, the
But like
anime can just use the
if they
same
had to
voice
bring a
actors as the game, so
true, exactly. But like, what's like the fundamental to a personality? What's like if you had to boil them down to like a single characteristic, like what would you say is important for translating personality to an anime? Like, because like if you play a game, what do you want to see from a character, like
well, okay.
personality
Well,
wise? Is there like a specific
here's
thing?
the thing, right? Like this game is sort of already an anime, like so. This is another
Yeah,
reason why
I
like it's
agree.
kind of
Hmm.
hard for them to mess it up in like a colossal way. But like they basically just need to like translate the pacing well. They need to like whatever story they're trying to tell. They need to make sure that it feels like Genshin and doesn't feel like a generic anime. Like I think that they have an easier time adjust. They should have an easier time adjusting theoretically than if they were adjusting like Monster Hunter to a live action or like an anime to a live action because there are certain expectations there. But if we're just talking about taking an already 2D so like we have 2D representations of characters all the time in the game, right? Like not only from their splash art that like when you summon them, but also the teaser trailers and things that we've gotten in the past, like the
Oh
story
yeah, all
trailers.
their
So
trailers.
yeah, so we have
Hmm.
anime already. Like we have anime in this concept that we're talking about already in the game. So like just turning it into a full series, with the pacing and stuff shouldn't be so hard. But I think that in this case, like just the little things that like I think it would be really nice if they could find ways to work in the little things that are popular in the community, right? Because I think the community is
References?
yeah, like references, like if they have like Zhongli at some point and he talks about Osmantius wine, like that's like his thing, right? So or like if Paimon does like the like if she if she does that, then that would be fantastic. Because that's like a well known point in the game that would be easily referenceable. So if they can get those things that remind us of those characters, like if they're talking about a character, like whether it's Xiao being emo or it's like um, Barbara being like trying to be a pop idol or whatever, as long as they don't make them feel generic, which I don't think they would, then I think we'll be pretty good on the characters' personalities, like in the anime, but also how they interact with each other,
Yeah, I
right?
feel like right, their interactions. I mean, they can write it however they want, but I have enough faith that they've practiced script writing and letting the voice actors do their thing. They've had so much practice with that already that I really don't worry about their personality specifically, but it's just yeah, their interactions with the other characters. Like, how are they going to react? Because wait, we never saw those characters interact yet. So what are we going to expect? It's just it adds to the realism of the world. It helps us to really expand on what we already know into another universe, another animated universe. So the personality, I'm totally confident that they know how to build properly. It's the rest of the world that is also a big concern too, because how do we make it feel like it's Genshin, even if they decide to make some other, potentially some other kind of world, whether it's like a prequel or like a future or alternate version of it. Like environment's a big thing because if it doesn't even look like the Genshin environment, it's gonna feel way too foreign. Like so if we have to build the world, like what's something you would expect to see in the background? Like for you specifically, Josh, what's if we had to like introduce you to like an environment, we saw the trailer already, but what would you expect to see in the background?
Mountains and stuff.
Yeah, something as simple as that. It's because we've seen mountains all over the place in the game. If everything's kind of like a flat terrain, even though it's like valley style, I mean, it does feel like something's missing because
Okay,
when we look out into the
I
horizon,
got
we
you
can see
ready.
mountains.
I got you ready.
Mm-hmm. What?
One step above that, I would love as someone who plays the game enough to know the game's geography, I would love to know where the characters are in the anime by looking at the background. They're out in a field.
I hope they
They're
keep
by
it to
they're by
scale too.
they're
Yes.
by the
Yeah.
giant tree. You can see dragon spine in the background. Like that's what I want. Like, cause I'm like, oh, I know exactly where they are. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know that as a fan of the game,
I would love that. Yes.
right?
Because it keeps you like immersed. You can look at everything in the. Normally, when I look at anime, I don't really pay attention too much to the background. I mean, unless it's actually drawn very well. But I'm not
Right.
familiar with their geography. Like I know there's like a lot of anime that have real life places, and it's this town, and it's you can tell that oh hey, there's the train station that everyone knows, or here that sakura tree that everyone knows. But I don't know the geography, so it doesn't hit me as much. But for Genshin, even if they have to expand the world like and scale it up just because we're seeing it from their perspective now, I still kind of want to see those things in the background, like what you said, dragon spine. I would love to see Liyue, even though like it should be way bigger in the lore because that town is huge, but in the game it's technically smaller. So that's one thing that they could also expand upon too, because the lore says that there's all these people and there's thousands or maybe millions of people, but in game they can't actually fit thousands or millions of NPCs. So it just feels like a big town. But now that it's all going to be hand drawn and it's not going to be something we have to load up on our devices, they can make it look bigger. I just really hope that the things in the world also start to make sense, like even background characters. Like if there's like a background character that they would add, even as a reference, like what's a background character they should add into this just to make it feel like oh yeah, this is
Ella,
definitely accurate.
Ellen,
Ella,
Ellen,
wait, is that in Mondstadt?
Ellen. We're talking about Leeway or specifically or what? Like, I was talking about the wannabe knight.
Well, anywhere. Oh, okay, yeah. I mean, yeah,
or the
because
girl who's
people know
talking
her.
to Hilichurls, like Elon Musk, right? Like maybe getting
Yeah,
her
Elon
to
Musk.
like maybe she's not directly interacting with the traveler per se, but maybe like you walk by her, like the traveler walks by her trying to talk to a bunch of Hilichurls. You know what I mean? Like something like that. Like it's just like
Or like
you
you
get
hear
the
her
reference.
practicing
Yeah,
in the
yeah, but like it
background.
has nothing to do with the
Hmm.
main story. It's just like a detail thing that's just like there, and it's a reference that you only
Yeah.
get if you play the game. Like I want
Hmm.
that. I want to be like I feel like that this for this to be really appealing to more appealing to the fans and earn extra bonus points and also get people to want to play the game is that they put in those things that make you feel that you understand the content more because you played the game, right? Like you oh man, I know what I want to say, but I can't think about it. Like basically you're not proud, but like you're proud you played the game. You know what I mean? Like oh man, I'm so
Yeah,
glad
you
I
can
played
use
the
that.
game.
Yeah.
Like I'm so glad I played the game
Yeah.
because I understand the references. Like that kind of thing. It's kind of like watching video game movies that have references, right? But then it backfires when you do it the wrong way, like in Monster Hunter, like you mentioned, because like why would you fight a fire resistant uh dragon damn it, I forgot his name. I'm blanking right now. What is the dragon's name from Monster
Rathalos?
Hunter? Rathalos, yes. So
Yeah,
like yeah,
Rathalos. Yeah.
Rathalos is like, fire breathing, resistant to fire. So like why would you use fire against him? Like um that that's something that it's like a detail that backfires because they didn't pay enough attention to it, right? So the opposite, like putting in details that you only get if you pay attention to it, like in a good way. So I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, so you know who did this I think the best is well honestly it's between these two. So Arcane, I know you saw Arcane, right?
Yeah,
Everyone
League of
loves to talk
Legends.
about Arcane. Did you yeah, League of Legends. Also Cyberpunk. Did you watch
Wait, did you play League of Legends?
a little bit, but not a lot. But
Okay,
I'd still got some of the references too. Did you watch Cyberpunk?
not
The
yet. No,
Edgerunners yet?
not yet,
Or
not
no?
yet.
Okay, so I'll talk about Arcane then. So
Okay,
what Arcane did was, I mean, you knew the character beforehand. Most people knew the character beforehand, but they also got the area like correct.
no
Like they knew that
spoilers.
there was Piltover. They knew that there was a. I'll talk about the area. It's not a spoiler, but like they knew that everything in this environment feels like it definitely matched the lore, how everyone talks, how everyone looks. It was super hyper accurate, And even though they've never seen this town before, they saw every part of the background felt like it was part of that zone. And so people who people who knew the game knew that, yeah, this is what I wanted to see. It's kind of the opposite of Genshin Impact. We have all the zones already built and made, and we got to explore them. But then if we see them in an anime, how do you expand it? How do you properly scale it up and still make it feel like that same area? Like,
Right.
are we supposed to see a certain building? Are we supposed to see a certain character in that certain area? Like the answer I was gonna put earlier, like who, like what NPC or what character should be in the background. I was gonna
Mm-hmm.
say, since you brought up Liwei, you remember Yinger?
The fishing
Yinger,
guy.
you remember her?
Oh
No,
wait,
the lady, the
Yinger,
lady with the clay pots. Ying Air. Wait, you don't remember her?
the lady with the
Ying Air.
clay pots.
Okay, okay. Do you have the wiki up? The
Yeah. Hold
the
on.
Genshin wiki.
Let me
Oh,
link to
please
it.
look her up. She's like
Okay.
my favorite background NPC.
Oh yeah,
You
this
remember this person,
lady.
right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Even if she doesn't
She
talk, I
knows
just want her to be in
things.
the background, like waving at you, like, "Hey, come here."
She's
Just it.
that's
You
cool.
expect
Yeah.
to see these particular characters in the background, or maybe even hear of them. Just even if they don't play a part, I guarantee you they're not going to play a part in the story, because if you had to devote an entire studio to make an animation, you're not going to focus on super small little references, but you want to get the big story done. And I understand that. But just adding those things that people ran into along the way in the story makes them feel like, yeah, I remember that too. I remember her too. Yeah, this feels like Genshin. So to like to kind of like coalesce everything into this one thing, it has to feel like Genshin Impact. Like, you can't call yourself a Genshin Impact anime without having it feel like Genshin Impact. And even though that's kind of broad, you could say that for like a lot of other games. You had like the Fate series, you have Cyberpunk, you have the Arknights anime coming out soon. You have, I mean, freaking Sonic the Hedgehog movie turned out to be actually really good in live action. I mean, did you see that yet or no?
Not the second one.
Okay, I still have yet to see it, but honestly, I've heard nothing but good things about them, and
Oh wait,
I
you haven't
probably
seen
should watch them.
the
No,
first one?
nope, I want to now
Oh
because now I have
yeah.
time.
So actually, yeah, I wanted to mention about that because like actually they get Sonic's personality down so well.
Oh yeah, totally. Even from the trailer, I could
Yeah.
tell.
Like it's like kind of weird that it's like it works. Like that's how well they did it. Like that translate over like that. That's how at least how I feel about it as someone who like really likes Sonic. That it would be really hard to make a better live action. I think. So I think it's really good that they did what they did.
Yeah, so that's like
Um.
master class on how to do an adaptation, because they had more pressure because they had to make it into live action and they came from a video game. I mean, that's a bigger hurdle than going from video game animation to just regular 2D animation, because like the whole feel is different. More people are involved. You probably have a bigger crew that have no idea who what Sonic is, whether they're just doing it for a paycheck. And I don't want to say all of them were doing it like that, but you have to know the game in order to make a game anime or a game TV show or a game
Mm,
movie, right? I mean, you kind of expect that. So even the little
yeah.
things,
Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out that
uh,
way.
yeah. But
The
like,
Monster Hunter live action movie. Wait,
mhm.
you didn't watch it, right? You said
No, no, I only saw the
the
trailer. I knew I wasn't gonna watch it.
the 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 first half an hour were they were fighting against monsters that weren't even in Monster Hunter. like,
Are you serious?
yeah, I actually hated it because
What?
the first half an hour of the movie was a horror movie, and I was like, what? Yeah.
Because there was like
Anyway,
the American military. How does that make sense?
yeah. Oh, so the story was that they got like I was gonna say something about this. Like, so in live action stuff is hard, right? Because you gotta like have a point of reference for the realism of it. So like they always put people like from our world so that you can understand how different the characters from the game are, right?
To be
So like
relatable?
in yeah, so because like it's not relatable to people that don't supposedly it's not relatable to people who um can't see themselves in the movie for whatever reason. So like Monster Hunter is actually about a group of like American military who are like like doing a patrol in the desert, and then a sandstorm kicks up, and then they get teleported over to Monster Hunter World, and like,
Oh God,
that's
that's
why
terrible.
that. But that is okay in the sense that like they're not trying to like force um I don't know, they're not trying to force something else. Like it's like I get it, okay, I get it, it's relatable. Like if you're a military person, you come across these monsters, you try to shoot it with guns, you're trained, so you're not like just like a, oh no, I'm gonna die person. Like they're military veterans, you know what I mean? So like it was actually interesting to watch them try to fight. But like I said, first half an hour of the movie for me was like super disappointing in that like it doesn't really feel like Monster Hunter at all. And that was kind of what we're trying to hope that Genshin goes away from. But again, live action is totally different. Sonic comes from his world to our world. Like that's the whole story. So
Okay,
like
yeah, so you
that's really interesting
understand
because
the
how
weird
does
disconnect.
right? So like how does Sonic like get around in our world? Like how does he understand what is happening? And they answer those questions in really interesting ways. So yeah, and then Resident Evil is just Resident Evil if you're thinking about that. So not like
Yeah,
the
so
game
for
at all, but what
those,
if Resident Evil was happening in real life? Like that's kind of
yeah,
what was happening.
yeah. So for those of you listening in, the conclusion we're drawing is Genshin Impact's never going to have a live action adaptation.
I hope
it's just
not.
it's just not going to happen. No, I'll quit the game if they do that. Seriously, because it's
I'm
just not
gonna
going to
only
work.
play exclusively Zenless Zone
Hmm.
Zero if that happens.
Yeah,
Until they make a
if
live
they
action
ever
of that,
do.
and I'll switch to Honkai
Hmm.
Star Rail.
Yeah, so just
Oh man, but
be true,
so
keep the feel, keep the personality of like the show and the characters themselves. But like even the game has a personality, so it's hard to adapt that to like a completely different medium. Like of course live action, but because Genshin, like you mentioned, is already kind of an anime already, it will be easier for them to do that kind of translation. But like as far as should they actually have in the anime, like keep some good references up, let the background look like how it's supposed to look like from that angle. Like if we're looking down this way, I'm supposed to see a mountain over there. Oh, I see the mountain. Okay, it's accurate. Oh, I'm supposed to be seeing this NPC over here because we're in the town square. Oh, I see them. Okay, it's accurate. Just keep it feeling like the game. That's broad, but even like regular gamers will say just make it feel like the game. I'm sure everyone can agree if they nail the feel of it, it'll be fine. The lore will
I
speak
mean,
for
it's
itself.
like give me a reason to watch it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want
Yes.
to watch it
Mm-hmm.
if it does nothing to do with the game that I play. Like that's like really weird disconnect, right? Um, but so actually this leads into a community question from
Mm-hmm.
last week in which we asked like, do you think the anime is going to have a canon or non-canon story? Will the anime retell the game or will the anime tell a completely unique story? So for those of you that don't know, canon refers to like official or original source material, right? And non-canon is anything else. So fan fiction, spin-offs, filler, like placeholders, like that stuff is called non-canonical. It's non-canon. But canon is like basically whatever story comes first officially. So the game that we've played up until now, like the way the traveler comes into Tevat, interacts with all the characters, that's canon. Okay, that's what we call canon. The fan art exhibitions I was talking about on the Hoyo Fair, the Bilibili things, all that stuff is fan art, is non-canon. It does not happen in the official story timeline of the game as put out by the company who makes the source material. And so, we're asking to the community, do you think it's going to be official? Like the anime is going to have to do with the official story, the canon material, and it's going to count as part of the story, like they're retelling the game or something like that? Or will the anime take the characters and the world that we know and then make a completely original story that has nothing to do with the game that we're playing? That'll be a non-canon story. So, so we have some people here responding. And so Pimzo Balto, hello Pimzo,
Hey,
um,
Pimso.
says says non-canon is my guess. I don't think Hoyoverse would reveal what happens later in the story. Maybe it happens in the past, or perhaps it is in another world. We need some info before it releases. So this interesting take actually, because like non-canon, meaning like it's telling a different story, maybe what happens in the past, or perhaps another world. Well, if it happens in the past or another world, it could still be canon. It still fits in the timeline of the Genshin universe, just not just doesn't take place during the story that we're in, or maybe it's taking place at the same time but in a different place. So
I'm
that
also
could still be canon, right?
yeah, I'm also hoping it's like not too strictly, shot for shot the exact story in the game because it
Same,
does
yeah.
give them a little bit more freedom to create a sort of spin-off or like a how anime has like a special episode where it did happen in the universe but it's off
Mm.
to the side, then they get back to the main story. Kind of like how every patch
Yeah.
kind of has a separate story, but it lets them play more. It lets the animators have more fun. It lets the story writers for Ufotable actually have more freedom with that. I like giving the creators of a work more freedom, even if it's like my IP, like the
Mm.
you know what I mean? Like Genshin gives them like rights
Right.
to it. Like how that's the one I was thinking of. Star Wars Visions. Like Disney just let these Japanese animation companies make their own episode and it's not canonical at all. And they were amazing. They were actually really good. So I want them to have that freedom and not feel constricted by the story already told because it's unfortunately going to be way too much research that they have to do to tell that story. So I wanted to have references, but I do want them to feel not restricted to a certain story. I would definitely want them to tell their own, but make it feel like it should happen in this world.
So you know what's like interesting too is that like there's things that are happening like in the background and everything, but there are also parts that we haven't explored, right? Like there's like, and this is a kind of weird thing to think about, but like for example, what if the anime was about the first 2 months of or there was some aspect of the anime, maybe the first couple episodes, that was filling in the story of like what happens when Paimon first meets Traveler,
Oh, that'd be great.
right? Like
That'd be great.
right. So, but would it though? Because if you think about it, you don't meet any of the characters that we play as in the game in those first 2 months. So, what would it
You
be,
were
right?
dropped
And
into the
so,
middle
like,
of
you
it,
would,
literally.
yeah. But then you don't see like, you don't get to see any characters. You don't get to see Amber. You don't get to see him. You know, you don't get to see anything happen. So, like, who would you meet? A bunch of random NPCs. You know. So here's the
Or
thing. I
yeah,
was like
like
just looking up about what happened in that 2 months. Like, do you know what happened in that 2 months, Kahi? Like, so what is implied that happened in those 2 months?
nope.
So traveler lands in Tevat, wakes up, does not know how to speak Tevat's language. Somehow fishes or finds Paimon, right? Paimon
Oh,
for
that I
whatever
remember.
reason is
Yeah.
like, Paimon for whatever reason is like, you don't speak our language, so let me teach you Tevadian or whatever. And then for 2 months, they're supposedly in the woods around Mondstadt, like which are supposedly bigger than they appear in game, just camping and foraging for 2 months while learning the language. But we're far enough to never see Mondstadt City itself, and that like that's it. That's all that happened. Like they were learning Teyvari, and so like when you meet them in the story at the beginning, Traveler is telling Paimon their story because they finally have enough language to tell the story. Like that's the implication of what happened. So basically, nothing happened in 2 months, right?
Yeah, I
But
do remember
there are moments
the
like
Paimon
that,
thing.
right? Yeah, yeah. And there are moments like that in the game where they could fill in some pockets of what happened or didn't happen, and they could, give us some uh really interesting backstory and fill in parts for us. And they could even have, I mean, imagine they could have episodes that are like similar to Visions, like that you're saying, like they're like separate standalone stories, but like maybe they're all canon. Like maybe we'll have an episode about not about the Traveler, and it'll be about like Diluc and Kaya, or we'll have an episode about Venti, or we'll have an episode about like all these characters. Like that would be really interesting, I think,
Mm-hmm.
because then it wouldn't be exactly like the game. It would be an anime that builds the world for us, but then
Yeah, it
it'd be hard
expands
to
it.
not have a consistent story, right? Like between all the episodes, it'd be hard for people to watch if they didn't play the game.
Yeah, yeah. Like if
So
they have to inevitably like scale the world up to fit realistic scale from their perspective and to be more accurate, obviously the areas are going to get bigger, which means they can travel more, which means daytime and passage of time is going to be different. So yeah, it gives them more to fill, or even to fill like the gaps and pass the gaps between the passage of time. Because I still remember in the very beginning, yeah, you fish Paimon out and you're hearing her describe what happened. Oh, and then you start.
Right.
So it was they could fill that the whole. I mean, you could have a couple of episodes just on that if you want, but we don't know
Yeah.
what they want to tell, what story they want to tell. I'm all for it. I mean, we already had the discussion, but non-canon,
Right.
I believe.
Yeah, we'll see. Like I'm really curious about how they're gonna approach it because there's so many ways they can tell different stories, right? Like, do they want to tell a traveler story? Do they want to tell a story of characters in the game? Otherwise, are they gonna make up stuff? Like, so we'll see. So non-canon. So actually, Pimzo is the only one out of our comments who guessed non-canon. So a lot of people like Attack on Melon said probably canon to tell the lore in an easy way so that people don't need to play the game but still get to know the lore. Now that seems like a
Hmm.
possibility for sure.
Yeah.
But like Kahi, like you were saying, right? Like, you know, for people who
Hmm.
play the game, do we want to see the exact same thing over in an anime form? Like, you know?
Well, I can I can see this perspective because yes, it is the more popular a game gets, the more people start to get interested, which means that they have a lot to catch up on once they want to start. Because I played Destiny 2, and honestly, the new player experience is not great because you are dropped in the middle of an ongoing story, and it's more disorienting than when it started. So I completely understand that kind of feeling of being lost in the story. If people want to know, what do they do? The anime is gonna be a great gateway into this because when the Cyberpunk Edge Runners anime just came out, did you know like that Cyberpunk game sales jumped 550% since that anime came out? That's
Yeah, that makes
huge.
sense.
Yeah, even though
Yeah,
we know,
it's giving people
yeah,
a reason to give it a second chance, right?
right, right. So even though like us, all of us who is listening, I'm sure everyone is listening who this played Genshin to some degree, either from the beginning or not. But there is going to be people that still did not play the game, and if this is their first exposure to it, do we want them to know what we know already? Do we want them to start from the beginning, or do we want them to? What would we want them to see? Because I'm sure the
Yeah.
creators of
Don't
the
we
anime are
want them
thinking that,
to I mean, if you think about it, the overall goal for the anime is to kind of get people to play the game.
right?
Like most anime, the reason that they have anime is to get people to read the manga. Like that's like the whole point. So or the light novel, you know, in a lot of cases. So it would make so much sense. Like they give us an enticing enough story about Genshin of Genshin to get people interested in it so that they can to play the game for more, right?
Right. Yeah, it gives them a good place to start because we want them to start the game. So there should be a really good connection between those two. So they are going to be aiming it somewhat towards people who don't know the game. And of course, they're going to have a lot of stuff for people who play it as like they're paying homage to us too.
Right, exactly. So Sam says, I think it will be canon since we see Al Haitham and Sino fighting in both 2D and 3D in the first 3.0 trailer, and then the 3.1, so that might be the anime showing that fight. Interesting. Thing is, though,
So
it doesn't. I don't think the anime fit that anime scene fits in with the affordable style. I don't think it's going to be the. I
yeah,
think it
those
was
are kind
just
of like
for
one
the.
offs because
Yeah.
they even did that with they did that with Yaimiko and Ayaka when Inazuma came out.
Oh, that's
Because
right.
they had the 2D animation then. Because back then, people thought, oh, anime soon. No. And here we are again. But if they were going to be reusing that animation, I don't know if it would be new story. Because, again, if they're trying to cater to the new audience, like the new players, or trying to entice people to start playing the game, I don't think it would be wise to start off like right now in 3.2, 3. Or like 3.1, 3.2, or like the story going on now because it's the same thing as dropping off someone in like the middle of the ocean without teaching them how to swim. We still got to kind of give them a background first before we give them knowledge on that kind of character. Although I would love to see it, but I don't think they're going to aim that far out.
Yeah, I agree. but we'll see, right? We'll see what they decide to do. That's why we're talking about it. So Tiori says, I think it will be canon, whatever that is. All right. So if you don't know what canon is, just explained it. So rewind. No, but
There you go.
yeah. If
Hmm.
but if you yeah, if you think it'll be canon, if you even if you do know what it is and you think it'll be canon, I mean, you are with a lot of people who think that the anime will be canon. Straxis 24 says, I think this completely depends on what they're doing with the anime. If it is set before or if it is a retelling, I can see it being canon. If it is set during, adding things in, I don't think so. Yeah, kind of what we were saying, right? Like depending on where they are deciding to tell the story, it could be easier to be a canon story or it could be easier for it to be a non-canon story. Um Stan Luna says, just retell the story. It may add more lore, but it's definitely canon. Haven't seen any non-canon official Genshin stuff. That's true. I mean, we know,
Hmm.
no, we've seen a lot of non-canon canon official Genshin stuff, like all the collabs, like all the collabs
But were they
with
animated? Hmm?
yeah.
Were
Well,
they
they
like?
weren't animated, but
Hmm.
like just as far as Genshin stuff, like um I mean, yeah, like the didn't you see did I send you the Beidou and Albedo like Honda thing,
Well, that
right?
was
There was
Beto
like a
and
little
Kazuha. Yeah,
Kaza,
yeah.
yeah,
That
Kaza and Albedo,
was. It wasn't really an animation though, but that is obviously like a
yeah.
partnership with a real company. So there's that real world aspect to it. But as far as like non-canon official
Yeah.
Genshin stuff, I think Stan's talking about like the character teasers or like the trailers or like the official videos they were putting out. Like there wasn't any videos that they were making that tell a completely made up story. I think that's what he's talking about,
Hmm.
which I agree with that because it was probably like a picture or a screenshot. Maybe it was even just for like a thanking the players because technically the player does not exist in the game. So even Paimon and Barbara, oh, they had that one video where Barbara was talking to us specifically. It was like way long time
Oh
ago.
yeah, and Amber
You remember
too.
that?
Amber too.
It was Amber.
Yeah,
That's
they
the
have an
other one.
Amber one.
Yeah,
No, no, there's
yeah.
both.
So
They have both. There's both. There's an Amber one and a Barbara one.
were they in the same video or no?
No, two different
Different
videos, two
videos.
different
Oh,
times. There's
okay,
like one came out,
okay,
I think, a year later.
okay. So that those are like community letters, but like they weren't presented as if they were a story thing. So there was never like a fake story presented to us from Genshin. So I agree with Stan. If it should be a retelling, it should be definitely related to what's going on in the world. So mm, it's hard because there's so many directions they could go with, but he does make a point.
Yeah, the world is really big, right? So makes sense that it could be either way. So the Traveler says, I think that the anime will tell a unique story and it will be canon.
Oh, there
So
you go.
yeah, that's kind of
The
like what
traveler
I'm
himself.
thinking is like yeah from the Traveler herself. I'm kind of thinking that like they will find somewhere to fit in something in the story that we didn't play through in the game but was assumed. Sort of like this like 2 months that you just meet, but
Oh yeah,
like
right,
a
right,
more
right.
interesting section.
Hmm.
Like I think there have been times. I'm sure we could look it up, but I'm sure there have been times where there's like time skips, right? And like we could, maybe they could tell those stories. So yeah, we'll see what they say. And Lex Luthor says, since they show Lumin and Aether holding hands together, I imagine it as a canonical prequel to the game taking place even before the manga. Right. So I was wondering about that too because it shows them before everything that happened, and so I'm curious if they are going to do something with that. Um, I don't know. What do you think, Kai? Like about a prequel that takes place before? Because that would assume it's before Teyvat then. And they showed Teyvat, so I don't think it would be necessarily that, right?
I really hope not because you get rid of the potential for any other character to show up. Because then they'd have to create brand new characters to to fill to fill the story, to have like an antagonist, to have like side characters, to have people that kind of push the narrative forward. If it's before they go to that whole world, you then can't bring any character from that world into the
Right.
story because
Exactly.
it wouldn't make sense. if you restrict it to that, then there's no hope for seeing Beto. There's no hope for the yeah. So if it is a prequel, then that means it has to predate us visiting and interacting with any of the characters we've come to know and love. So that means we can't interact with Beto. It doesn't make sense. We didn't meet her yet. We can't interact with Raiden Shogun because she's all the way over there. So I would
Yeah.
love to see unique characters coming, but there's too many characters we already really want to see, and it's kind of a waste of a cast as well. But I have no problem seeing new characters, but I still want there to be a reason to bring the characters we already know into the story now.
Yeah, I also personally think it would be smart for them to bring in to have a reason and have a story that shows as many of the characters that we've met in the game as possible. Like I feel like that will help people because a lot of people play these kind of gotcha games with characters for their favorite character, right? Like they're the characters they like. So in anime, if they can show the story, like the gist of the story, and show like this is what the story's about, this is kind of what the game is about, this is the world, this is how amazing it is, look at all these characters, then like some there'll be if they have enough things in there, then someone can really get attached to like one of the characters or something and be like, oh, is that a playable character? Can I get that character? And then like maybe they'll want to play the game because remember, like the goal is to get people to play the game. Like that's and the other goal should be what we would love it to be is the people who play the game give them something awesome to watch. Like those are like the two big goals I think.
Yeah, because
So
I keep bringing it back to like Arcane because I think Arcane is honestly the staple and standard, golden standard for a video game adaptation for a show or animation in general, because they brought characters from the game that you know and love, even though they didn't bring in all of them. The story they told is already the reason why you didn't see the other characters because they started in this region. So that means, hey, should we expect to see these characters? Yes. And they brought a few of them in, and anyone else they bring along for the ride is going to be great. And they told like origin stories. If you have Genshin Impact, where their one of their biggest draws is the gotcha characters, and have none of them in it, that's probably going to backfire. So it's probably not
right.
going to be before the manga. I could always be wrong. Maybe they do want to tell that because if they spent all the time in the manga, they want to flush it out to an anime. It would make sense in translation from manga to anime, but the game is what everyone loves. The game is why people fell in love with the story and the characters in the first place. So I'm going to say I hope it's not before the manga, even though it could.
You know what's actually interesting is like I play this game called Grand Blue Fantasy, and in Grand Blue Fantasy you can also have like a male or female protagonist, and the way that the characters interact with them is like kind of different. And of course, people have their own head canon, like what they think in their head is like their experience with the game, like what happens. Because officially, you can choose boy or girl, main character, like male or female main character. And so, when you have the male character and you interact with certain characters, it's a certain way, and then the females is a different way. So if they made an anime of Grand Blue
Yeah, I
Fantasy,
was thinking
and
they did have one.
yeah, and it was great, and I really liked it. But the thing is, like, in the anime canon, like the main character is a guy, right? And so what about the people who play the girl? They're just gonna like leave her out of it. But actually, they have um they have a episode at the end of this of they have two episodes, the one at the end of each season. And the episode is like a just a one-off, like kind of side episode um that doesn't have to do with the anime canon of the guy's timeline, but it's actually an episode where the girl is the captain, is like the main character, and she's interacting with all the characters in the way that she would. So they made the whole anime about the guy, but then they have original video animation episodes, like separate episodes that were released at the same time as the anime, but they're stories of like just somewhere in the middle of their adventure they're doing an event or something, but it's the female protagonist. And so I think it's really cool because they actually gave both, and instead of just like only focusing on one. I feel like because a lot of people play as Lumine and a lot of people play as Traveler, even though Traveler, I mean, Aether is like, if you look at a lot of the content, most of it is like Aether is canonically, like, the male is canonically the main character and he's looking for his sister. But when you play the game as as Lumine, then it's the opposite. And so I think that if they could, the people who really like Lumine as the main character, if they had the ability to give them something as well, whether it's in an extra episode or something, or maybe in this anime they decide to make Lumine the main character, and then they do the opposite. Maybe they'll have one episode or two episodes of just Aether being the main character. Like whatever they decide, I think it would be nice if they could give us a little bit of both and not just pick one side. I think that would be really cool.
You know, it's odd that I kind of like how Grand Blue did that because you're right. You have a whole fan base and they are kind of stuck in their telling of a story when they pick a character. I even though it wouldn't make sense from like a story if it was purely just an anime, that would not make sense. But because it came from a game, it makes sense, and I'm more accepting of that.
Exactly.
It makes sense because we know that. But if you had people who didn't play the game see that, I don't think they would get it fully. I don't know if they would fully appreciate it, but that seems like a move that is catered to the fans, which is itself good. But I don't know how everyone else would take it. I don't.
But that's why it's an extra thing,
and
right?
then you played it. Yeah, it's an extra. But I do personally like that.
Yeah, no, it's really great. And I was thinking like so in the game, so in the fighting game for Grand Blue, they also did something similar. Like the guy is the main character, but then and the girl actually comes out as a DLC later in the game. But in the story of the game, the fighting game, they actually continue the story, or it's like a part of the story from the phone game. So because Grand Blue Fantasy is actually a phone game, so the story is actually cohesive. It's canon, and so, but in that game, there's this thing that happens, and he meets the girl version of himself, and like it's really awkward because like, they're both the same person. They're both the same captain of the same ship, and all the people. But like, there's this thing that happens where the two universes merge together, and everybody has memories of both people being their captain.
Oh, that's weird.
Isn't that interesting?
It's a good weird. It's like, but it's weird.
Yeah, it's like wait, you're my captain. Wait, yes, captain. Oh wait, but wait, you're my captain. Wait, you're my captain too. Like it's like this like thing where everybody has memories of both of them being the exact same person that they are. So it's a really, really interesting dynamic.
I feel like another anime did that. There was another one that did the same thing. Like you had two versions of a person, and both. Oh, what was it? It wasn't a recent anime, but it was an anime kind of a while ago. What? I know this was used. This method was used before. If anyone knows an anime that had this kind of thing go on, please tell us, because I know there was another one that used this technique. Well, I don't say this.
Yeah, let's try to look it up later.
Like, oh, it'll be fun because I kind of like that.
This sort of story template. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah. So that happened. So I just like some ideas of like how a game got adapted into an anime, that like especially a game that has the ability to choose your protagonist's gender, which really affects the way that you experience the game, like, and the way that the character interactions feel to you. So I think it's really cool if they can include something for the fans, for the people that play their game differently than the way that they decide to tell the story. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, great comments, guys. Thank you so much for answering our community question from last week. We are all so excited about the anime, really hoping that it'll bring new people in and that will give us something new to talk about. If it's canon, great, we can actually use it in our conversation for the game, and work it into our lore discussions. But either way, really excited to see this amazing studio to do the animation for Genshin Impact. It's going to be super awesome. Now, for our community question this week, we actually want to do something a little bit different, and we want you all to ask us questions. So it can be questions about the games, it can be questions about us. Ask us question from you, the community. This is our community question. So ask us a question on Spotify, on Anchor, Twitter. We'll answer a couple of them, or as many as we can, on our next episode. And let us know what your questions are. And then after that, starting next week, we'll go back to giving you guys a question to answer for us. So let us know. And thank you everybody for watching our show today, for listening to our show today. That wraps it up for now. Thank you for listening. Please give us a comment and review if you have the time, wherever you are listening. And please don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you are leaving a comment, wherever you are listening. Follow us on Twitter as well. Once again, at Genshin Guys Pod. And hey, come on down, join my Twitch stream at twitch.tv/jside, where I stream Genshin among a variety of other things. Right. The link will also be in the podcast description. So, everybody, thank you so much once again, and as always,
Ad Astra Abyssos.
Hoshi to Shine no Mezase.
Enjoy.